Hey y'all, hey, I'm back with another video. This is not gonna be, I say this every time, but I'm serious this time. This is not gonna be a long video. So, as y'all know, if you pay attention, Melyssa Ford, has been having a lot of back and forth over, the podcast that she's going to be doing. So I think it's November 1st. She's going to start her own podcast called Hot and Bothered, with Melyssa Ford. I don't exactly know how this is gonna go. I'm gonna assume that Joe is helping some way, somehow. I don't know, but he's giving her her blessing. And I saw that she was on a Spaces maybe yesterday. And I just like saw like a YouTube clip of it of her pretty much asking like what is it that people are looking to see from her on this show. So I just got a few things written down here. A lot of the stuff I'm just gonna kind of repeat that was in the Spaces, but I just wanted to like really go through it. First of all, I want to say that I am happy that Melyssa is getting like her own podcast. I always thought that long term that made sense for her to do a spinoff off of, off of the JBP. I think she works there to a degree, but I do think that because she's the only woman amongst a whole bunch of males, that sometimes the ball is dropped and there's just certain things that don't work. So I think her going off and her having her own thing makes a lot of sense, for sure, for sure. So just a few things I want to talk about when she asked what are we looking for. So I think the number one thing that most people are looking for, and I'm looking for with this new podcast, is for Melyssa to be more relaxed. Now, she told the story of how she got on the Joe Button podcast and how she had came out, and if y'all remember that one episode that Melyssa did come and do where it was when they were still in Park's basement, it's probably the best episode that Melyssa has ever done, like since she's even been on the show. Now, I will say that you can tell that more recently, like her fucks have kind of gone out the window a little bit. And if you look in the comments of that first video that she did before she was even officially on the pod, people in the comments, if you go to like newer, are like, that's the Melyssa I'm pretty sure that Joe was looking for. That's the one that he hired. And I'm not sure if it has to do with maybe just the time or maybe the fact that she was just really really drunk that episode, but that's not the Melyssa that we get. We don't get that Melyssa. We get somebody that's very more like reserved, but I have done different videos on why I feel like she's like that. So we're just looking for a more relaxed. We're looking for MERLOT MEL, but pretty much every episode. That's pretty much what we're looking for. Fun, energetic, don't give a fuck, gonna say whatever she wants to say Mel. That's the Mel that we're looking for. We're hoping that we can get more information on, or just more stories from, when she was a video girl. It seems to me like she's not necessarily ashamed of that time, but it does seem like she shies away a lot from talking about that. I do think that when like certain topics come up on a pod, from like an entertainment standpoint, that she really is able to help give good perspective because she was in the music industry. But I do wish that she delved into a little bit more. Now, something that she did say, which I've always felt like this is why she didn't do it. She said that a lot of it is like trying to like not be too messy and not put people's names out. Because this is the thing. I think she feels that like for a lot of the stories, she's going to have to use names, right? And especially if she's using cautionary tales, but she doesn't want to necessarily like throw people under the bus. But I think there's a way that you can tell stories about what happened, or during that time frame of your life without naming names or without being very specific. I'm pretty sure that there's shit that you could talk about that has nothing to do with like the actual artist, and maybe just because even Melyssa said that a lot of times it wasn't the artist that was the problem, it was the crew. So I do think that one of the things that Melyssa should lean into is her video vixen past and really speaking on that from all different aspects, from it being from funny times to bad times to good times. I'm not saying she has to harp on it, but it would be nice to get a little bit more of those stories, just so that we can get like a personal peek into her world. Thirdly, I do think that she should do a little bit more personal stories. I know on a pod that she On the JBP now, she doesn't really have the opportunity to always do that. And then when she does, sometimes the guys just laugh at her. I really, really, really liked Melyssa's interview with Angie Martinez. That was the most. I have been watching Mel on that pod for about a year and some change, and that one interview with Angie Martinez was the most I ever learned about her, which is kind of crazy. She's been on a show for a year, and I didn't know 95% of that shit until I watched that Angie Martinez interview. I think she needs to lean into that as well. Give us more a personal side. We know about, like your parents a little bit. I think if she could, lean more into like, telling stories about how she grew up in Canada, or maybe just, the transition culturally and things like that, moving from Canada to the US. I think just giving us more stories about who Melyssa is, outside of, what we've already heard. Something else that I'm really looking forward to, and I think that she should do, is I do think that I don't really know exactly how she plans on doing this, if it's just her by herself, I would assume, but I think that it would be great to get a range of different women. And so I am not looking for this to be like an interviewee podcast. Like maybe that's her, maybe that's what she's doing, but I'm not necessarily looking for Melyssa to just be going and interviewing very famous people or famous women that she knows. Like, I mean, she can do that here and there, but I think for Melyssa, the best way to do this is to get a range of women from different aspects of life. So not just women that are in the entertainment industry, but lawyers and doctors and people in corporate America, your average 9 to 5. I think a lot of times on the Joe Budden podcast, Melyssa is pigeonholed into trying to speak for every woman. But the thing about it is that Melyssa Ford is so unlike the average woman. Like, she is in such a minority that I don't think it's fair to have her try to speak. Well, first of all, there's no one woman that can speak for all women. But I think it's unfair to have Melyssa Ford try to speak for the average woman when she does not live the average woman's lifestyle, and she has not since God knows how long. And so I think on the show that she's going to have now, I think it would be great to have a range of different women. The one thing I always say about the Joe Budden podcast, to me that they're lacking is they are lacking a woman on that show that has no ties to the industry. I think that Melyssa is needed for that because of the fact that they talk about the entertainment industry. So I think she's needed, and you need somebody that's been in the entertainment industry like Joe does, because you bring a certain perspective. But you see how the men have like Ish, or like even Flip to a degree, who maybe not necessarily be like deep in the entertainment. They're kind of just looking at things from a casual eye, or just like the everyday person. I think that's the type of woman that they need on the Joe Budden podcast. And if they're not going to have that, I think that on Melyssa's show, she should, try to, however she's going to do this show, I think she definitely needs to try to tap into like the everyday woman, because I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be kind of hard. It depends. I'm not going to say it's going to be hard. It depends on her formatting and how she's going to do this. To kind of piggyback off of that, I hate saying that that's like such a corporate situation, such a corporate word, but I think another thing that's going to be really important for her is to have some type of male counterpart. I think it would have made a lot of sense if Melyssa and Ish had their own like spinoff like pod. To me, that would go crazy. And a Melyssa Ford and Ish pod, that would go insane. So I think that she needs to have a male counterpart. Now, I'm not saying he got to be there every week, but similar to how Joe, like I used to say, Joe needs a woman there, I think that Mel needs a man as well to kind of counterbalance. Again, it doesn't have to be every episode because she deals with that enough, but I do think that it would be nice to maybe have, maybe Ish come on every other month or once a month, or have Imani come on like every now and again. I think just making sure that you're having some type of male counterpart to just kind of have that dichotomy is going to be really important. And then the last thing I want to say, and I said this before about the Joe Budden podcast, is that I think she needs, similar to a range of women as far as like their lifestyle, I think she needs to do the same in age bracket. So I think she needs to try to get a nice little range. You get your girls that are a little bit younger in their 20s, the girls in their 30s, and then the girls like closer to Melyssa's age. I think having a nice range of ages for the women that she's talking to is going to be helpful too. I feel like that'll help her round out her base and her demographic. Yeah, so I'm interested in how this is going to be. I wonder, is she going to make this a more interview based? It sounds like from what she said so far, from what I'm hearing, that she's sitting down with like people that she knows, like her friends, and just having, conversation. The thing about a podcast is that because everyone has one, you have to make your shit stand out. So you're Melyssa Ford, right? So the thing to me that's really gonna make her stand out is gonna be the different stories and things like that that she can bring from her past, and just her perspective as someone who's been in the industry the way that she has. I think for her that's gonna be like her shining star. I also think that Melyssa being more of herself and not so feeling like she's caged in and can't say much, I think that's going to play a big part as well. Because when Mel is able to like just not give a fuck like she has been the last couple of pods or couple of weeks or whatever, it makes for good podding. It makes for good entertainment when you just don't give a fuck. So that really needs to come to her podcast. Like, stop. We not doing all of that. The Mel that we got during Nori, except way dialed back, we need that. The one that we got on Joe when you first came, that's the Mel that we need. And if you're not gonna bring that Mel, then honestly, you can keep it. Cause no shade. There are so many podcasts right now. And if you are not going to be different in either A, how you present your content, or B, find some way to truly stand out amongst the God knows how many people there are. Because again, you're going to get traction simply because you're Melyssa Ford, simply because you're on JBP. But if you would like to sustain, you're going to have to do more than that, because you're not going to be able to just rest on the laurels of your name forever. You're going to have to bring something that people really want to hear and that's engaging. So those are the things really that I think that she should work on. Like I said, be more relaxed, lean into your video girl days a little bit more. Have a nice range of women and topics, obviously. I still think that she should cover like hot topics and things, but we can delve deeper into them. And then I think she should have like a male counterpart every now and again, just to give the little bit of spice. Because Melyssa gonna come to life when she has to go back and forth with somebody, especially a man. So if we can get either like I said, Imani every now and again, or Ish every now and again, I think that would be great. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be back after the first episode comes out to like really give my full, honest review on how I think the first episode went. I'm not going to cherry pick her and review every single episode. I'm going to do episode 1, then I'm going to give it some time, and I'm going to come back a couple months later and tell y'all if I'm listening to it. But y'all get in the comments, tell me what y'all think. How do y'all think Melyssa should go about this? And I'm out. Bye.